Hey there, this is Catherine Cartwright. Welcome to the ScrapbookPal channel. Today I'm going to be making a card using some Spellbinders products. I've got this beautiful embossing folder, these flowers called Little Blooms that have a lot of dies in it to create these beautiful little flowers. And then I'm going to use a thank you word die set also from Spellbinders. So let's jump right in. I am going to start by, I wanted to do some blending with some distress ink, and I'm going to do this on watercolor paper. And you could do this on any kind of paper, but I just chose watercolor. I like how it performs with distress, especially Oxide, because I'm going to spray some water on here. But you can definitely just use regular cardstock. That's the beauty of Oxide, is it's very, very flexible in what you can do with it. So I've got Saltwater Taffy that I began with. This is picked raspberry. You can see the other color choices that I made: Salty Ocean, Wild Honey, Twisted Citron, and Wilted Violet. I thought it would be fun today just to play with these inks. And then I'm going to use these panels that I'm going to create to die cut all of my flowers. I like to do this sometimes just to kind of pull these out and use them to create. You could use these to create backgrounds. You can see how beautiful and vibrant these colors are just as is. You could run these through that embossing folder that I showed you, the columns. So there's just so much fun things you can do with, a mixed media product like this. All right, so I've spritzed some water on there, and you can see that it is going to pull that ink away. It almost looks bleached to me. I know it's going kind of fast, but I'll show them again in a second. I'm just cleaning in between. And so I'm just going to keep doing each panel. I'm kind of doing half and half, or, 3/4 and 1/4 of the panel, depending on how many of each color of the flowers that I want. So this is a fun project too, in that you could cut a bunch of these and then put them aside and use them later for another project. So this is Wild Honey, one of my favorite yellows, that is like a beautiful yellow with almost an orange tinge to it, but just really, really pretty. So again, I'm going to spray some water using a water bottle. And so if you use water, further away you are spraying, the smaller the little dots will be. So if you want large dots, you're going to hold it closer. Okay, I'm going to ink up another panel here, and then I will repeat this process. And it's just so much fun. Twisted Citron is probably my favorite green. That and Mowed Lawn are two of my favorites from Distress that I always reach for, but I like the brightness of the citron. It looks so pretty. So I'll use that to cut my leaves that I'm going to create. And this die set, like I said, it has a lot of flowers. It also has some little leaf dies in there so that you can create a fun scene or bouquet of flowers. All right. I'm just going to keep spraying. You can see that ink is coming off, which is exactly what I want, because that's going to give me kind of some depth and interest in my flowers. All right, so here I've done some extra panels, and then I will go ahead and start die cutting. I'm going to do most of my die cutting off screen, just because I think this video would be too long, and most of you are aware of how to die cut, but I did want to show you what my thought process was for this. So I trimmed a little piece, and I'm going to trim very close to my edges because I don't want to waste any of these pieces of paper. I definitely want to, use as little paper as possible so I can get as many leaves and flowers as I need. All right, so you can see that this one die has like a little stem for an individual flower. There's one that has for 3 little flowers. There are some leaves in there, and there's a 3 leaf one, so to speak. You can see. So you get out of one die cut, you get quite a bit of foliage, which I find wonderful and very creative with these die sets, because you can really cut a lot of things very, very quickly. All right, so I'm just deciding where I want to go next. These there are some larger flowers. There's a larger one that's just the front of the flower, and then there are some that have 2 layers. So that's that big flower. There's a little indentation in the middle for us to add something. There's another die cut I'll show you in a minute, And then these you can layer together. That purple one, it has, you can layer those two pieces together, and then there's the little trio of flowers. Okay, so here are all the ones that I've cut and put together, but I'm going to put a few of these together so you can understand what I'm talking about. So there are these additional little dies that I just had in my hand that I used to cut these brown pieces for the center of the flowers, or some of these are for the center, those yellow centers of the flowers. And so I'm going to take this one and glue that brown piece down, and then I'm going to add the top of my flower. So right away you get this instant dimension. Now you could add foam here if you wanted to. I decided to add the foam behind mine, but you could add foam if you wanted to for even more depth of your flowers. This larger flower has a little center that I cut from brown that fits perfectly in that indented space. And then I'm going to put a yellow piece that also is included in the die set and that will fit perfectly on my flower. And I love that it's not perfectly shaped. You can see it has kind of a little, I don't want to say raggedy, but maybe you could say raggedy edge, because that is how flowers are in nature. They're not perfect. And so I love that that one particularly kind of has a little bit of a misshapen edge to it. I think that just adds a lot of interest to it. Here's another one of those same kind of flowers. I think I'm going to call these maybe poppies. I'm not sure exactly what flower it is. It can be whatever flower you want it to be. That's the fun part, because you're the artist creating these cards. But I'm going to glue that second piece on there, and then you can really see how interesting these fun flowers are. And so you can also see some of these flowers have some kind of lighter spots. There's kind of some speckles on there. So that is what I was hoping to accomplish by spraying some of that water on there. It just adds a little bit more texture and depth to your project. All right, so I have cut this beautiful frame. This is from Altenew, a sparkled frame that I picked up recently that is just so much fun that I wanted to use on this project. I'm going to glue this directly onto my panel of cardstock, and this cardstock has been embossed with that beautiful columns embossing folder. And so the center is cut out of the frame. You could change this if you wanted to. You could do a purple frame and then do like a yellow inside or any other color you wanted to. So that actually makes the frame even more useful in my opinion. But I am going to glue mine directly onto this piece of paper. I'm going to use some foam and I'm going to use some adhesive. And so I'm going to take a minute here and start laying out these flowers where I might want them to go. So this is going to take me a second. We've got those little stems, the little single stems that would hold some of these flowers. And just so, anyway, you can fit all of these things on there. And then I'm going to fill it back in with some additional greenery. But I'm just kind of laying these out. And this is really the fun part is, and the hardest part, I would say, is just trying to pick and choose which of these beautiful flowers that you want to use. I'm going to use some of my Barely Art adhesive, just kind of running that on the back. It's a little bit skinny, so I'm just going to use my finger there to rub it on there and make sure I've got some adhesion. And then I'll use some foam to pop up these other flowers to add some dimension. And on this one too, the beautiful pink one. And then I will continue adding this around, just kind of getting this together the way I want it to. This one I'm going to just adhere directly on the flowers. I'm going to glue directly on, I should say, since they're pretty thin. Not the flowers, excuse me. The leaf one, I should say, the leaf die cut. I'm going to glue those directly on because they are rather thin. And most of the flowers, I will add a piece of foam to the back. I'm using the 3L Adhesives Variety Pack, which is my favorite foam. It's very thin, so you do get dimension, but it's not too much. And I love that they're cut in two different sizes. So you get a small square that you can see here on camera, and then there is a larger one underneath. So you get two packs, two pieces in each pack of those sizes. So I really, really love them. Okay, so this is starting to come together. I'm taking my time here, making my choices, because when I glue them down, I'm not going to be able to move them. And so I'm just kind of filling this in, trying to balance some of the flowers, the colors, as well as the shapes and sizes. And so you can see I added that one with the little 3 flowers on there, the yellow ones, which is really fun because with having done the watercolor on watercolor paper and adding the water, and you have some different kind of shading there with the ink blending. So the yellow ones are not exactly all the same. It's a subtle difference, but you can definitely see it. It's probably a little bit harder to see on camera, but some are a little brighter and some are a little less vibrant. So you get some variety there as well. And I'm going to stick this one little tiny one behind that blue one to complete that cluster. Okay, so these other ones will go on the bottom, and I'm just trying to stick them in there. I'm going to trim this one down just a little bit, and that way I can fill this in. So you can see I still have a lot of flowers left to work with, so I can absolutely make at least 1 or 2 more cards if I want to do this design, or if I wanted to change it up with something different. I have so much flexibility, and that's the fun part. You can take an afternoon, take a little time and cut these out, assemble them, and then you can make a bunch of different cards. All right, so I'm almost there. I had to cut that one little stem in the middle because it was a little bit too long in front of my flower, and so then I'm going to start adhering these little individual leaves. You can make these a different color if you wanted to add some darker contrast to it. So if you did that, you would just use a darker ink on your panel. Okay, so I'm getting close to being satisfied with filling my frame. And then I liked the way that these 2 individual flowers, the larger ones, they kind of just happened to come together on when I was putting things together. I really wanted to add something additional to my frame. Okay. And then I cut those thank you word dies, which are fantastic and a must-have for your craft stash. If you don't have any good word dies, you need to check these out. The size is great, and I love the font of them, and we never can say thank you enough. All right, so I cut those out in white, and then I mounted that onto a piece of black cardstock because it does have the shadows included. I did go back and die cut one more pink flower. I needed just another one to kind of fill in that space and balance out my color choices. Okay, I'm going to add some foam to the back of these word dies. You can see that larger foam piece that I mentioned, and then I use the smaller ones on the U that fit beautifully. I'm going to kind of line this up using my grid mat here to get them pretty straight, and then I will press them down to finish that up. I'm going to glue this panel onto a bright green cardstock I found in my card stash that would go pretty well with the greenery in this bouquet. I thought that would tie that together nicely, and then I'm going to mount all of this onto an A2 sized card base that is a light blue. So I thought that would balance out that bright blue that I chose, and then tie some of those elements together. And then I'll just line this up, and we have a beautiful thank you bouquet to send through the mail to someone that you care about. All right, so I'm going to finish this off with some Wink of Stella. I have the clear glitter marker. I love to use these things. They are great for adding a little bit of shimmer, and it just wraps everything up together. So that is my card for you today, featuring these beautiful dies from Spellbinders. So be sure to check out the shop, and thanks so much for watching, and I look forward to seeing you next time. Happy crafting and have a great day.